Hello and welcome to the Delayed Football Hipsters podcast in partnership with classicfootballshirts.co.uk. My name is Kris. I will be your host as usual. And right off the bat, as we say, we are slightly delayed this week. Blame Arsenal because there was a cup game last night and a few of us had a few commitments. So apologies, we're a day late, but we're here nevertheless to cover the weekend's European football chat. And of course, I need some people to be able to chat with to do that. So good evening to my usual cohorts, Drew and John. Hello, both of you.
Good evening.
Hey guys, what's up?
Right, we're going to crack straight into the podcast as usual, with plenty to get our teeth around. No Hipsters Choice this week. We have to announce that off the bat. Scheduling has kind of killed things this week, so apologies if that's your favourite segment. Yes, I'm looking at you. There is one person whose favourite segment is Hipster's Choice. But we're back with a bang next week because a certain player that you're quite fond of, Drew, we're going to cover Yuri Tielemans next week of Anderlecht.
Yes.
So there you go. So Drew likes this player a lot and he knows a lot about him and he's written stuff about him too. So if you want to get your questions in early about this young man, tweet Drew and we will be back to Hipster's Choice action next week. Right, let's kick off the show then, and we're going to start this week in Spain with this week's La Liga. Right, so off the bat, we're going to say we have got some news on Spain. We have managed to, finally, after all these weeks of trying, we've managed to find somebody who might want to talk to us. I know that's hard to believe. We have managed to find a little bit of a partnership with another podcast, which some of you might be familiar with. And if you're not, then do give them a listen. A chap called Gav, who's part of the Sound of La Liga podcast. You can find them at Sound of La Liga. He is one of the main guys, the host, in fact, who works with the podcast, talking all things Spanish football. We've been chatting to Gav, and we're hoping to welcome him to next week's show. So there you go, Spanish fans. If you've got a question on La Liga, we will do our best to get it answered professionally next week. But for this week, we're just going to have to put up us being unprofessional. Sorry. Right, we're going to jump straight in then and have a look at this weekend's actions. We picked out a couple of fixtures to look at. John, I want to talk to you about Sporting Gijón and Atletico Madrid. We've talked about Simeone's sort of impending departure because we all think that's what's going to happen. There's been a lot of talk about Antoine Griezmann potentially off to Man United. Lots of talk about a few players moving on, actually. I think Fernando Torres seems to be the only one who wants to stay. But they were a bit patchy in this game until a certain Frenchman stepped off the bench. 4-1 victory in the end. Kevin Gamero with a hat-trick in, 4 minutes? Do you see this as a little bit of a get out of jail for Atleti, given the fact they were 1-1 with a poor side, or is it proof that they've still got it in the locker when it all clicks together?
I think it's a bit like when we were talking last week, where they started the game and got a lucky goal, and then went a goal down twice in the match, I think it was, wasn't it? And they came back to win 3-2, and we saw a bit more of that kind of fighting spirit and always the underdogs, regardless of who they're playing, and they can claw back something out of a win. Obviously, they were only level in this game, and they should really be beating a team like Gijón, who are obviously struggling a bit further down the table, especially with the quality of players they've got. Is that I can't remember how many goals Gamero has even got this season. That feels like it might be.
I think it's 7 in the league total. So
yeah,
almost 50% was that one game.
9.
Yeah. 9. So yeah, getting 3 in one game really does bump his stats a little bit. He hasn't had the best of time there, but he's a decent player, and I think when you've got an aging Fernando Torres there, and Antoine Griezmann, who hasn't been in the best form this season, certainly since the Euros when you saw how well he performed for France, players like him need to step up. So that's a really good sign for them. The issue is, I think, they're in this very strange space of just kind of want the season to finish and see what happens with Simeone, because everything around the club is kind of up in air until that decision about whether he is definitely going, and then what players will be leaving and who's going to come in to the club will sort of determine where it goes in the future. So they're still obviously challenging and trying to get in the get a Champions League spot and see how well they can do in the Champions League as well. Until the end of the season, but it's this kind of up in the air, what's going to happen, suspense thing. It's the horrible thing as a fan, as Arsenal fans, we're kind of going through it at the moment with whether Arsene Wenger is going to leave or not. And it's that kind of thing where we haven't really got a lot to play for the rest of the season. So can we kind of just skip ahead to the summer so we know what's going on and cut all the suspense out? I'm sure for everyone else watching them it's fine, but if you're an Atleti fan, it's not great.
No, definitely not great. Did you see the story that... sorry, I'm going to have to go into kits once again, but did you see the story about this third kit that went around the weekend, either of you?
No, I didn't see this. No.
Well, I don't know if you know, but obviously Nike, who manufacture their kits, last season, you might remember that Barcelona, Juventus, Man City, Inter, they all got these snazzy third away kits, didn't they? These sort of jazzy, loud colour away kits that the Nike teams get. Well, Atletico Madrid have kicked off and said, hang on a minute, you've given them all to the large scale teams or the elite clubs in Europe who are sponsored by Nike. Why haven't we got one? Particularly given the fact that obviously their home kit is three different colours, which makes it more of a clash with the red and white and the blue shorts. So apparently their fans have put together a petition to Nike this week that they want a third kit for next season. I think it's the first time I've ever heard fans petitioning to pay more money for more kits. It's usually the other way around. So that's a strange world of football we now live in.
You wouldn't have said that 10 years ago.
No, you really wouldn't. And Drew, they've got a big match coming up tonight, time of recording, on the Tuesday. They're Champions League at Bayer Leverkusen. Do you think the Germans will be the happier of the two coming into this game with Atleti looking a little bit vulnerable, or do you fully expect Leverkusen to kind of bottle it again?
I don't really know. I think we've seen in previous seasons how good Atleti can be, especially if away from home, defending deep and getting a result, whether it's a boring 0-0 or they maybe nick a 1-0 away. They're so good at that. And even though they're not in the greatest of form that we've seen in previous seasons, they're still doing relatively well in the league. They're only 6 points back of Barca when you really think about it. Sometimes their goal scoring form is a bit patchy. As we just said, it took a wonderful performance from Gamero in 5 minutes to seal the win. So, but I don't know if Leverkusen has too many players who are on enough form this season to really break down a stubborn Atleti defense. So we'll see. It could be interesting, or it could be a complete bore fest. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes, I think back to those Atleti Bayern games last year that were absolutely turgid. Yeah. They really were the hipster's choice. If you like defending and organised football, they were brilliant. But if you wanted excitement, they weren't that. So let's hope for better. Let's move on to the
17-year-old. Sorry, just to interrupt. 17-year-old starting up front for Leverkusen tonight. I know this is obviously be old news by the time the pod goes out. Kai Havertz, Drew.
Oh, Kai Havertz. He's actually quite solid. That's why he's getting the start. Yeah. So there you go. Should be fun to watch. Yeah. Another German coming through the pipeline. What a shocker.
That sounds like a cheese to me, Havertz. So hopefully he's good. But yeah, interesting. He might be one to keep a little eye on. So over to you, Drew, on that one. Let's talk the Deportivo derby. It's not really a derby. Well, I don't know. It might be. I don't think it is. Anyway, Deportivo La Coruña against Deportivo Alaves. Alaves coming out winners in this one. Bit of a surprise to you, John. Just how sort of not how low Deportivo have fallen, because obviously they sold Lucas Perez, who's warming Arsenal's bench, of course, this season. But without a goal scorer, they've only scored 26 goals this season. You compare that to the 56 of Real Madrid that are top, and they've shipped 35. They're not in great form, and given the fact that Granada and Sporting Gijón have had a couple of wins recently, they're looking over their shoulder a bit, whereas Alaves, up to 11th, having a lovely old time. So you sort of fear for Deportivo to be dropping back down to those lower spots?
It's a little bit risky because, like you say, they're only 3 points off being in the bottom three now. And they've been on a very bad run. I think that's their third loss now in a row, so a bit worrying. Not a huge surprise that Alaves got the win. I think, mid-table or 10th or above really finish for them is a very good season when you consider the budgets compared to some of the other clubs in Spain. But it's worrying. But I think that the biggest thing, it's terrible when you lose your goal scorer, and I can't remember how many he got last season, Perez, but he was up there. He might have been their top goal scorer last season. So that's going to be a biggest issue. But the amount of goals that they're shipping is a real worry. You can score, that's fine, but if you keep conceding sloppy goals, that's going to be a serious problem. So they need to tighten that up and just need, a run of a couple of wins or a few draws here and there just to drag themselves away from it. Because you don't want to get dragged in with Gijón and Granada and that. Obviously, Osasuna stranded right at the bottom, so I don't think there's any trouble of them being caught there. But that's the real worry for him.
It is a little bit of a worry, as you say. They are one of those grand old names. I still remember that semi-final there with Monaco all those years ago, and there's about 87 goals in 20 minutes between the two. It was an absolutely nuts game. But that was a long time ago when they had the likes of Diego Tristan and who was the Argentine fella in midfield whose name escapes me. That's going to bug me. It wasn't Ortega. I'll have to think about that. But they had an Argentine in midfield who was a gem to watch as well. But I'll have to look him up. Anyway, and Roy Mackay, of course. Remember him, Drew? Roy Mackay.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he was
for
there.
club, awful for the Dutch.
Yep, got it in one.
Yep.
Good old days. Anywho, but yeah, good win for Alaves, and yeah, promoted side. Manuel Garcia with a penalty in 68 minutes got them that result away from home. Good result that for the away side. Speaking of good results, Drew, Valencia watch. We seem to watch them every week, don't we? But they got quite a decent win this weekend over Bilbao, albeit at home. To be fair, Valencia have been pretty poor at home. Goals from Nani and a lesser-spotted Simone Zaza. Yes, he of the penalty.
First goal.
Yes. Well, how much did that cost them to get that first goal?
And how many steps did it need to take to get it? That's the
indeed, yes, indeed. But nevertheless, a clean sheet for Valencia, a win for Valencia, and a good performance for Valencia. Is the world about to end, Drew?
No, I think the world's just fine, and they might just bottle it next weekend. But no, in all due respect, I think that when you see them play to this level, you ask yourself, why can't they perform like this way the majority of the weekends throughout the season? And we've said before many times on the podcast that they have the players to do it. And this is a match that maybe provided the evidence. Nani is getting on an age, but as we saw in the Euro in the summer, that when he's on form, he's actually an incredible threat on the wing. Fabian Orellana is a bit of a throwback name for SerieA. I'm sorry, for LaLiga fans. I think he played for Celta Vigo before this as well. He was always pretty under the radar and a good performer. Amir El Haddadi performed well as well. Again, the goal from Zaza, which maybe people didn't really expect, but he, I guess, despite what people will say, he did get looks for the Italian national team, I guess, in some sort of merit, although John might disagree. But no, again, this is what you want to see from them. But the problem that they've had for the last 2 or 3 years is that they can't string together performances of this quality. They might have gone on and gotten a credible win in front of the home support, and maybe you can build form on getting credible results at home. It's always a struggle to go away from home, no matter what league you play in, and the majority, the balance of your points throughout the season are usually come from home results. So, if they're going to dig themselves out of a bit of a pickle, then maybe, they just have to, if they can play like this at home for the rest of the season, then they'll avoid relegation. If it's still topsy-turvy and one weekend they're brilliant and the next weekend they're absolute turgid, then, they're going to keep struggling. So, they have to look at performances like this and use that as the springboard to survive another year, and then maybe look at that rebuild we talked about over the summer. So.
Yeah, it is one of those. We've said it, haven't we, on this pod several times before. They are one of those clubs that will be fascinating to watch in the summer as to who goes in, who goes out, and who goes shaken all about. But nevertheless, a good victory for them, and a victory they very much needed. Pulls them slightly further away from that relegation mire. As for Bilbao, sitting in 8th, probably about where they'd expect to be, I would guess. From my limited knowledge. Final game we'll just touch on briefly before we give you the other results. Sevilla 2, Eibar 0. I watched this game. It was, I know we always refer to the club that we support on this pod, we do a little bit in Arsenal, but this was classic Spanish Arsenal. Sevilla absolutely battered Eibar from start to finish, but could not put away chances, constantly messed around in front of goal, and generally made a bit of a pig's ear of winning a game that should have been very straightforward. So, for those of you that follow Arsenal, you'll be familiar with this. Pablo Sarabia, who's having a wonderful old season, bless him, he opened the scoring on 30 minutes. He's actually got 6 goals from midfield this season, which is pretty decent, given the fact he's only 24 as well. He's one to watch in 21 starts, a couple of decent assists as well for him. So he's having a lovely season. He got them off the mark on 30 minutes. And the last minute goal from Vitolo, who's also having a pretty decent season, the Spanish international. He notched his 4th of the season in 90 minutes. I don't think Eibar will be too... it sounds silly to say they won't be disappointed with the defeat, but they had their moments in this game. But ultimately, I think the class told for Sampaoli's man. He was his usual energetic self on the touchline, and Sevilla keep their cushion from Atleti into third place. So warms them up nicely ahead of that clash with Leicester. Just quickly, Drew, do you foresee the old Leicester returning, or do you think this is going to be a bit of a battering that Sevilla are going to give Ranieri?
I mean, they've done so well to win the league last year unexpectedly, and then to indeed go ahead and do as well as they did in the Champions League this year. But you look at Sevilla's record in Europe. It may only be Europa League, but the fact that they've won the last 3 in a row. The last 3 seasons, and now they come into Champions League. They've improved themselves on the slightly bigger stage than Europa League, and the way they're performing domestically, the way they just seem to be offering a little bit more than we have seen from them in previous seasons. I've got to think that their experience is going to carry them over the line, and I don't think Leicester's going to get past this round. But you would have, any Leicester fan you would have asked at the beginning of the season, would take winning your group and bowing out in the round of 16 in a Champions League competition against one of the better performers in Europe the last couple of years, I think they would have taken yes. So they can enjoy the ride while it lasts. But Sevilla, I think, can be almost considered one of maybe the dark horses of the competition, depending on what we see from them in the early stages.
Everyone's saying this is going to be a mauling, and you just know that Leicester will probably turn up for one game.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, well, I mean that would question everything about Leicester and their mentality, wouldn't it? If they can get themselves up for this game, and I think some of their supporters, whilst they'd be quite happy they'd done well, I think they'd be a little bit going, hang on a second, where's this been for the last few weeks? But I suppose you see it in all cup competitions and throughout Europe, the teams raise their game for big opposition, so it'd be interesting. And that home leg, I think. I think Sevilla, if they score 2 or 3, I think that ties over, because I can't see Leicester scoring 2 or 3 at home, given their current goal scoring form or lack thereof. So, be one to keep an eye on. Running through the rest of the results in Spain, then Eibar actually played this time last week when we were recording. Well, the day before, they got a 4-0 win over Granada. So obviously that defeat to Sevilla isn't quite so bad given the fact they won previously. On the Friday, Granada themselves got a very good win, 4-1 over Betis. Quite a shock that. Carcela Ramos, Andres Pereira, the on-loan player from Manchester United, scored and got sent off. That's always good fun. In a clash with Metius Nahul, who was also sent off. Petros got one back for Betis. Ramos got his second to tie up the game for Granada. Real Madrid, that small club. We should probably mention them, shouldn't we? Pretty routine victory over Espanyol. Not very much happened. Morata and Gareth Bale returning from injury. I suppose that's something that we should mention. Coming off the bench and scoring. Very good goal, actually. And he got a very good reception when he came on from the Los Blancos fans, which is quite the change from how it used to be when he first joined the club after they had a little bit of an issue with him for whatever reason. Good comeback for the Welshman, just in time to get injured on the European qualifiers, I'm sure, or the World Cup qualifiers. And we should also mention Villarreal with a 1-0 victory away at Sociedad. That's a bit of a surprise, that one. Last minute kick of the ball from Samuel Castillo. He's a player I quite like, actually, or Castillejo, I should pronounce it correctly, shouldn't I? 90th minute winner there. Celta Vigo continued their excellent season with a 3-0 win over Osasuna. It's Pioni sister, isn't it? The lad who they got from Rebel Salzburg got the opener. Joseped and Iago Aspas, who else got 2 late goals to make it a 3-0 victory. Barcelona limped past Leganes. Took a 90th minute winner from Leo Messi from the penalty spot to get that one. Messi himself put them one up after 4 minutes, and Unai Lopez got the equaliser. And I say a late show.
Well with Barca.
Really not well, no. Luis Enrique apparently is going to be chopped. Talk is that Sevilla's Sampaoli is the man they want to come in. Although Alan Pardew is still available, so good chance that I know Coyle, of course, available now. So some big names in that frame for that job. But no, all jokes aside, as you rightly say, John, all is not well in the Catalan city. There is it. It's it strikes me as a little bit of change coming in the summer. Saw them linked with Cedric Suarez of Southampton today. That's an odd one, but still, that's probably one for Ross. And also on the Monday game last night, Malaga 2-1 victory over Las Palmas, who always seem to play on a Monday. Can't quite work that out. Lemos put them in front, but Pablo Fornas and Charles got the goals for Malaga, who finished the game with 10 men after Jose Rodriguez was sent off. But didn't matter. They won the game. So that is the weekend in Spain. The table, Real Madrid are 1 point clear of Barcelona, but they have 2 games in hand, 52 points from 21 played. Barca, 23 games played, 51. Sevilla, 2 points back, 49 points from their 23 played. And Atletico Madrid, same games played, 45 points. Sociedad, Villarreal, Eibar and Bilbao make up the top 8, with Celta 9th, Espanyol 10th, Alaves, we mentioned earlier, 11th, Las Palmas 12th, with Malaga, Betis, Valencia and Deportivo down to 16th, and then Leganés just about head above water on 18 points from 23. Gijón in the relegation zone on 16 points, as are Granada, same points, and bottom Osasuna. They have got double figures now. Well, they always did have 10 points, but they're still looking a bit doomed. But there is tightening up all of a sudden with those couple of wins for Granada and Sporting Gijón in recent times. As for next week's fixtures, we've got the Friday game looks fairly tasty, actually, on the 24th. Las Palmas play Sociedad.
Easy game Alaves. Sunday, though, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we'll come on to that one in a second. Alaves host Valencia, Betis, Sevilla. That'll be quite tasty. That's a derby, isn't it, on Saturday? Leganés, Deportivo, Eibar, Malaga, Espanyol, Osasuna, Athletic Club, Bilbao against Granada, Sporting Gijón against Celta Vigo, Villarreal, Real Madrid. That'll be tasty. And, of course, the big one, as John said, Atletico Madrid against Barcelona, 3:15 kickoff on the Sunday. I think it's fair to say we all agree that's probably our game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, but you can never really count against Villarreal maybe picking up a point at home, considering how stingent they are in defence. Yeah,
that's true. At the Ceramic Stadium, I'm not having that, by the way. That sounds fucking ridiculous. And of course, Betis Sevilla, that derby. That's one of the bigger derbies in world football. It goes under the radar, but it's a very hostile derby. That so might be worth tuning in if you get the time as well. Right, that's Spain. I think we have 1 or 2 questions later on, so we'll get to those if we can. As I say, next week we should have Gav in place to talk about all things Spanish, and feel free to look him up if you want to do your due diligence on him. He can actually find him on Twitter as he frantically types into his Twitter machine at LaLiga Gav. So maybe send him a tweet if you want to welcome him. Please don't abuse him, because we haven't had him on yet. He might run away. Right, let's move on then to our next league, and it's time to go German next as we talk this week's Bundesliga. Right then, Drew. So what has been happening in Germany this week? You wanted to start with Bayern Munich, who they played this game last week. I don't know who it was against. Let's skip that. But they had a good win against somebody last week. But they really struggled in this game away at Hertha Berlin. What happened, and why was there such a big kerfuffle at the end?
You could probably say that they maybe had a bit of a hiccup coming into the match. I actually watched this in full, and they seem to be a bit laborious, honestly. And whether if that's because they were still on a high from their midweek performance, or if they were indeed tired from their midweek performance. But they were definitely second fiddle in regards to the effort put forth. I don't think you can really say that they're always going to have the possession, like we said before, and they're always going to create more chances. But Hertha actually looked the more dangerous of the two sides. They, I think, for me, they created the more clear-cut chances. And they actually, ironically enough, they've scored the fewest goals from counterattacks this season in the Bundesliga, Hertha Berlin. But yet, so the goal came from the counterattack, and that's looked like where they would hit Bayern again because of the possession difference. I thought it was a very good performance from them. I thought yet again, that they went back to performing well in regards to defending deep, defending in layers. They were always well drilled in front of the home crowd. So, but another late goal from Robert Lewandowski. The issue was, and they were talking about this on Sunday as well, there was 4 minutes of stoppage time that were awarded by the referee, Patrick Ittrich. And the issue was then that the match went on for 2 additional minutes past the 4 allowed for no reason at all, and then Lewandowski scored in the 6 minutes of stoppage time, and rightfully so. Not only Paul Dardai was livid, hurt this chairman. They're justifiably angry, and it's one of those things where it just sort of seemed that the referee was just trying to give Bayern one more chance and one more chance and one more chance to get that result. And almost, and I hate to say this because you always can draw comparisons between other leagues, and you've had controversial referee decisions constantly in say LaLiga, for example, with Barca and with Real Madrid, and people always complain about the referees favoring them. And this has got to be put down as one of those instances where a Bundesliga referee was definitely favoring Bayern to maybe try and get a chance, because they were really having a go at the end to try and get that point. And there's no reason to give 2 extra minutes after the additional 4 if there wasn't, if someone went down with a serious injury, that's fine, but there's just no reason for it. And I think Hertha were screwed out of a rightful 3 points at the end of the day.
Conspiracy, and who'd have thought Bayern Munich getting decisions in their favour? You are right though. The scenes when that goal went in, players were livid.
It's very awkward though, isn't it? Because it's there you go, motorbikes. That's Lewandowski now. It's one of those weird rules where the time shown is a minimum of amount of time, isn't it? And then it's down to the referee's discretion as to how much extra time.
Yeah, but 2 extra on top of 4, that's a lot.
Yeah. No, I agree, but it's one of those weird rulings where the referee says, well, I have to give a minimum of 4, and then I can give anything up past that. But yeah, it's not that it ever happens in Italy. No comment.
ever. Yes, yeah, indeed. But nevertheless, a little bit of after the Lord Mayor show from a team that was epic in the Champions League to not being so good in the league. More on another one of those later when we go to France. But nevertheless, a point for Bayern. So what about their rivals then? We'll come back to Hamburg in a minute. But first, we want to go to Gladbach. Drew, do you want to start by winding up John, or do you want to talk about how Leipzig were very good again?
Let's be clear. I never try to wind up John.
Yeah, Gladbach tried to wind me up.
Yes, exactly, and they just make it easy for me at this point. But no, I build this last week as the one I wanted to watch because Gladbach were getting on in form and rightfully so. I think they picked up 10 points out of the last 12 when the Rückrunde began, and Leipzig were on 2 losses on the bounce, so it was a key fixture for both. I think if Gladbach go on and win this match, then that's a big morale boost. But if Leipzig right the ship, then they can go on and maybe resume their challenge and maybe trying to chase Bayern. But again, this is, I don't know. You could say that maybe Gladbach could have maybe deserved the point, but the only issue with that is that they didn't really have the performances in key areas from players to really get it going. I thought Lars Stindl was actually pretty good through the center forward channel. Torgan Hazard, he actually struck woodwork, and at that moment in time, he didn't strike woodwork. He had a penalty saved, rather. I'm sorry. I was thinking of a different match. And I think when he gets his penalty saved right before halftime, that changes the entire dynamic of the match. Leipzig go into the dressing room after 45 minutes and realize that they got off lucky with one, but they have to go out and get that second because Gladbach will want to come out and maybe get that one back for themselves. And I think at that point in time, Leipzig were actually in control of the match relatively, so that could have changed the entire dynamic of the second half. So Leipzig come out of the dressing room, they come out full swing. They get the goal on the 54 minutes. It was a brilliantly well worked goal. Timo Werner was put through by Emil Forsberg, who actually had a goal and an assist in this match, and another consummate performance for them. Gladbach do get that late goal through Yannick Vestergaard, who, ironically enough, was their biggest offensive threat throughout the match. I think he had 3 or 4 chances from set pieces where he found himself unchallenged in the air, and he got a headed effort, and this one he put away right after Gladbach went to 3 in the back. Dieter Hecking just said go for it. They switched to 3 in the back. Vestergaard was pushed further forward. He got the set piece goal, but it wasn't enough. But you could probably say that while they might feel a little bit frustrated by it was a close effort at home. They maybe on another day, if someone like Fabian Johnson didn't perform well, Andre Hahn didn't perform well on the other wing as well, maybe if they offer a little bit more in an attacking sense and maybe take their chances a little bit better, because they were pretty wasteful with the chances that they did get. They could have gotten a point, but it's tough. Leipzig are a young side, but it's tough to see them blowing 2-0 leads routinely, despite the age and despite it being their first league in Bundesliga. So, we could just come on to John a bit more as well if you want. So,
Yeah, go on, John. What's your diagnosis of this?
I mean, I wasn't expecting anything, to be honest. I thought if we get a draw, it's a good result, just because Leipzig have been so good this season. But like Drew said, because of the form of the two teams, the performance midweek against Fiorentina, despite losing, was actually quite good. We didn't take the chances, and there was a clear penalty not given as well for Gladbach against Fiorentina, and we lost to a wonder goal from Bernardeschi. You can't do anything about it. It was a great free kick. But in this game, I just felt like we didn't take the chances that we were giving up. We had so many decent set pieces, and it kind of felt like one of those games where if we're allowed to play the pretty nice football that they can and the fast interchanging and the pace that they can play at, it's great. But Leipzig just seemed a little bit physically stronger, a little bit quicker, and just slightly more fit. And not that Gladbach were bullied as such, but they were, or intimidated or anything like that. But they, I don't know, just Leipzig just seemed like a stronger team. And that's what sort of saw through in the performance, and obviously, and also they've got Emil Forsberg, who was absolutely brilliant in the game. I mean, like Drew said, if Hazard scores the penalty, it's a very different match, and I think that gives them a little bit of confidence. And they're still, obviously, you can still see clearly they're a little bit shaky sometimes when things don't quite go their way, and they're a bit wary that maybe they go back down on a dip of run and stuff. But if we got a point out of the game, I would have been happy. But there's not too much shame losing to Leipzig. It's just frustrating when you have that many chances in the game, you don't take them.
No, I don't think there is, but I think honestly, I think the one thing you could look at, and we've mentioned it previous podcasts, that Hecking's first order of business was to come in and get the approach correct, to really get the side to be a more disciplined side, and he's gotten the shape correct. He's gone back to the 4-4-2, and clearly by the results shown since the second half of the season began, they've improved. But this was a different animal, I mean, not to rag on some of the teams that Gladbach have played against since the winter period has ended, but Leipzig are a different animal. They come at you with such pace, and they're so good with movement off the ball. Particularly, they had the front two of Timo Werner and Oliver Burke. And side note, Oliver Burke wasn't very good in this match, but Werner is so good at popping up anywhere across the defensive line that it's difficult for a lot of defenders who aren't the most mobile to deal with. Yeah. And plus you have Forsberg constantly making late runs into the area. Naby Keita does the same thing. Marcel Sabitzer also does the same thing on the right hand side. It's very difficult, and especially because while Gladbach have defended well and they do defend better than we've seen recently in the first half of the season, they're not the most mobile at the back. Oscar Wendt tried his very best to keep pace with Werner on a number of occasions, but Werner's turn of pace is such an issue, and it causes so much space to be created behind him where people can slot into it. And there's a lot of interchanging passing. I think it's just one of those things where they came up against a side who were just better than they can defend. And I think that was really the only difference. I think if maybe they played a side that wasn't Leipzig, they maybe would have gotten the point, or they would have gotten a win. It's just Leipzig can be so good on their day, and I think that's really what's the difference.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And at the end of the day, we've said on this pod a few times, Leipzig's sort of rise, whether you like them or you don't, has been pretty meteoric given where they've come from. I was watching a video, actually, I thought of you the other day, Drew, and I was watching a video alone with the curtains closed. No, not that kind of video. I was watching a video the other day with there was that flashback to when, do you remember when Leipzig went at Stuttgart? They needed goals and they started in an 8-2-0 formation, and they took kickoff and bombed forward and scored within about 30 seconds. Yeah. I think it was Davy Selke got the goal, I think, from memory, but I flashed back to that when they were in Bundesliga 2, and I was like, oh, that was so fun, wasn't it, when they were just smashing that league? But yeah, I mean, they've come a long way, so I think they'll be pretty delighted. And of course, their kit's nice, so that excuses all of the other issues about them in my book. Anyway,
nice kits go a long way. They really do.
They do, although I'm not sure about New York Red Bull's new one, but that's another story for a rainy day. Let's talk Hamburg, because they have been having a jolly good time of late, haven't they? They seem to have found the net again recently. They seem to have found a little bit of stability, and they found a few results. And I suppose, really looking at this game with Freiburg, the mighty, mighty Freiburg, if you don't mention Grifo, I'm coming after you, 2-2 draw at home. Will they look at this as points dropped, given the fact that they were in front twice?
I mean, obviously, you'd have to think if you ask any manager, even any player, if you have 2 leads surrendered at home, then you definitely drop points, and especially considering that Hamburg were a bit on a high because they just went out. They beat Leverkusen at home 1-0. Then they went to RB Leipzig and beat them 3-0. You would think that the confidence and building on performance after performance after each week would maybe see them through on this, and it's just I think that they might have to take responsibility for it. But if you really think about it, they were actually second best to Freiburg. So I think maybe you could even argue that maybe Freiburg would feel the more disgruntled, as it were. But no, I think it's again, any points for Hamburg right now are going to be seen in a positive. You could debate for a little while if you feel like maybe Freiburg deserve more, if Hamburg deserve more indeed. But I think they'll just take results. And, I don't think Marcus Gasol could be very picky and honestly, his only job right now is to make sure they don't get relegated. So while 2 extra points would have seen them 3 full points clear of Werder Bremen, who are in 16th, but again, actually Werder and Ingolstadt both won, so he didn't actually gain any ground. In fact, he actually lost ground. But on another day, if Freiburg drew on and get that win, for example, then Hamburg are actually sitting in 16th on goal difference. So they'll take it. It's points. It's something that they really can't be stingy about. But I think the biggest thing for them now, really, the only way they can see themselves through to avoid the drop is that they really, really have to tighten up at the back. And I've been saying that probably since last year. That, and I think you and John can both agree. If your defense is well drilled and they're not leaky, you'll never be in with a shot to get relegated, even if you're not a big goal scoring side. I think they do have some players in their 11 who can maybe get some goals. Philip Kostic came in from Stuttgart after they got relegated, and he's a decent player, but he wasn't on song that day. You have some other players like Aaron Hunt, Michael Gregorish, perhaps. Maybe they can. Pierre Marcelo as well, who didn't feature, but these are players who can maybe, if they each get 6-7 goals in the league for each of them, so you're already looking at maybe 30 goals and just from 4 players, and then when everyone chips in, if you get around the 40 goal mark and your defense is at least somewhat decent, you'll avoid relegation. I think that's just the biggest thing from there on out. But I know you want me to bring up Vincenzo Griffo, so I will. He's the reason why Freiburg will go out and put in a performance, loosen an attacking sense, and get a result. But honestly, you could look around the park and say, Maximilian Philipp played quite well. Nils Peterson actually put in a decent performance at center forward. Yannick Haber, the former Hoffenheim striker, he was okay. Freiburg, I think, they might feel a bit hardly done, rather they didn't get a point. But that said, in regards to them, I don't see any possible way that they're going to get relegated. I know that just came up, but I think they'll be fine. So,
of course, they're not getting relegated. I follow them. Goodness me, I still can't make up my mind. I know people keep having to go at me because I have to decide. Am I gonna? I'll always follow Paderborn, but they don't really count now because they're like basically non-league. But I can't decide. Do I go with the Mighty Eagles or do I go with Freiburg? I can't decide. So for now on, I'm just going to be full hipster and just support 2 teams. I'm going to be that guy. So
you'll just pick whoever gets into Europe if either one do, and both of them have a chance at the moment. So,
well, it's just this issue, everyone has that team in the lower league, and then all of a sudden they get promoted. It's like, oh, I can't have them anymore. So, it just sucks. But never mind. Well done, Freiburg. Anyway, I'm pleased they got a point. Other results, just quickly running through the table. Other results running through. Dortmund got a 3-0 victory over Wolfsburg. Wasn't there a stand empty in this one? Did I spy that?
There was. So it goes back to when they hosted RB Leipzig at Dortmund, and there was a lot of crowd trouble. And it came down from the governing body that it had to be closed for that particular match. And instead of fighting it, I think Dortmund just went along and just said, we'll take the hit. And they got a relatively heavy fine, and they pressed on. And a couple of players, and Tuchel himself, commented that it was a little bit awkward in the opening stages of the match to not have that standing home crowd support. But they went on and they did quite well. They still won 3-0 at home despite not having the yellow wall with them. So, but it does raise the question. We've seen it in other leagues where sometimes controlling safe standing crowds sometimes can get a bit out of hand. Usually that's where the missiles will come from. That's where you'll see the flares and this kind of thing. And maybe that's why sometimes is the debate if there should be safe standing in the Premier League. Maybe that's one of the issues that has not been brought up enough is, can you control a safe standing crowd sufficiently enough as to where you won't have issues? Because how many times in the Premier League, for example, do you see instances like that happen at stadiums? And most stadiums in England don't have safe standing. This is the top tier. So while you're missing out on the atmosphere from a safety standpoint, maybe sometimes if you can find the balance, it might be worth looking into. But no, I think it didn't affect Dortmund enough. But it was difficult as a Dortmund fan to not see it rocking. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Two other bits of information from Dortmund on a day of, as you say, got a 3-0 win. Jeffrey Boomerang goal, Piszczek and Ousmane Dembele with another goal. The talk, Michael Zorg has admitted the club have asked Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to give, quote, fewer interviews and, quote, ignore questions about his future. And on that very same line, I believe the Spanish paper Sport are suggesting that Dortmund are lining up Iñaki Williams as a replacement for Aubameyang if he was to leave.
But
so
why?
I know. I mean, they've got Dembele. Just push him through the middle, isn't it? But,
or buy an actual... Oh, good God. Whatever. Let's just move on.
I've started him. Werder Bremen won a game, I know, alert. Serge Gnabry with yet another goal. He'll be off to Bayern in the summer, of course. And Delaney with the second goal. So 2-0 victory over Mainz. Hoffenheim back to winning ways, back to normal ways. 2-0 victory at home to Darmstadt. Clean sheet, lovely job there. 2 goals from Andrej Kramaric. Remember him, John? No, nor do I.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
Leicester.
Yeah, Leicester boy,
yeah. Who was the guy who went to Fiorentina, the other one? He's Kalinic, isn't it?
That's Kalinic, yeah.
Yes, the forgotten Croatian pair. Eintracht Frankfurt, the mighty Eagles. They got kind of killed, didn't they? Lost at home to Ingolstadt. I'm not quite sure I saw that coming. But a sending off to Abraham after 34 minutes probably didn't help. Bagheera and Pascal Gross with the penalty on 69. Matthew Leckie, the Aussie, was also sent off in that game. So red card apiece, but a good points for tally for Ingolstadt. And finally, Schalke and Cologne, 1-1 draw. Yet another goal for Anthony Modeste, the Bundesliga top scorer now. Oh, he's having a lovely time.
He's tied on 17 points, and actually I'm in the midst of writing an article that features a discussion as to why he needs to get the call-up for France.
There we go. Look out for that. We will retweet it when it's up. And another go for Schopf, who's having a lovely time at Schalke as well. But Schalke still can't seem to string together a series of results. So not good for them. And by the way, that Cologne kit has got to go. That's hideous. Oh, good God. Absolute budget. Anyway. Okay, so table is Bayern Munich top of the table, 50 points. Not a surprise that they're top. They are 5 points clear of RB Leipzig on 45 points, with Dortmund and Hoffenheim sharing third spot, both on 37 points. Mighty Eagles, 35 points from they're in fifth place with Hertha, their point against Bayern making them sixth place on 34, with Cologne, Leverkusen, Freiburg and Schalke making up the top 10. And then down at the bottom, Darmstadt still appear to be doomed, 18th and bottom, 12 points, 6 points adrift of Ingolstadt, who have, with that win this weekend, greatly improved their chances of staying up with a 2-0 victory there. So they're 18 points. They're only a point behind Werder Bremen, 19 points. Good job they won this weekend. With Hamburg, 20 points. And then all of a sudden, Wolfsburg are looking a little bit dicey, 22 points. With Augsburg, also 2 straight defeats, falling to 24 points. With Mainz and Gladbach in 12th and 11th, respectively. So that is the table. Drew, what's the game you're keeping a beady little eye on next week?
I'm going to go with RB Leipzig, and they host FC Köln. So basically, I just want to see if they can kick on from their result and punch through what's usually a very stubborn Köln defense. I think that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. So yeah.
As long as that kit isn't in operation again, I'm just not having
just for you. I'll make a phone call, and there it is.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Right. Okay. As I say, we'll come back to you shortly because I'm sure we have some questions on Germany coming up. So we're going to move on now to John's neck of the woods and see what's been going in Italy this weekend with this week's SerieA. Right, John, we'll start with the champions, with the old lady, because everyone likes to know how they're doing. A certain Paulo Dybala went to face his previous club, Palermo. Now, we have to ask this question, because you know what's coming. Change of manager for Palermo, or have we still got the same guy?
No, we still have Lopez. We still have the same manager.
That must be 3 weeks, isn't it? Wow, it's a new record.
I don't even bother counting anymore. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. What is worth counting, though, is the fact they shipped 4 goals to Juve. 4-1 victory. Juve that good or Palermo that bad?
No, Juve that good. They really did just rip Palermo apart, and it's at the J Stadium where Juventus just do not lose. Dybala did not celebrate his goals against his former club. He got a double, the Dybala double. Lovely free kick for his first one, straight in the top corner, even better than Pjanic. And he scored the fourth goal as well right at the end. Really good assist from Higuain. I think it was Golden Liga for Palermo, just lost the flight of the ball. Higuain pounced on it and was being pulled back, and Golden Liga could have been sent off for his second yellow, to be honest, but he spotted Dybala coming, little back heel into him, and Dybala slotted home from the edge of the box. So the referee gave Golden Liga a little bit of a reprieve there. Goal for Marchisio as well, a little scramble in the box, good finish from him, and goal for Higuain, of course, who could not be on the goal sheet, and assisted by Dybala. The interesting thing here was the fact that Pjanic didn't get in the team, although that could be with obviously Champions League coming up. They've got to play Porto. Piazza, or Piazza as he's being called in Italy, the Croatian youngster, also got a start, looked very good in the game. Marchisio back to fitness as well. Asamoah also playing left back, so they really rotated quite heavily, a lot of the players, and still went out and really put in a good performance. As for Palermo, good performance again by Nestorovski, who apparently is being watched by Atletico Madrid. Not surprising at all, because he's been the one sort of bright spark at Palermo this season. He's looked very, very good. So there will be. I think he's too good to be playing in Serie B, as he will be if he stays at Palermo next season. Also saw the defensive midfielder Thomas Rincon as well come on for Juve, who they signed in January. The other bit of news from the game was a very clear argument between Bonucci and Allegri at the end of the game, after Palermo got a consolation goal very late on, some sloppy defending. Buffon was not happy at all. Bonucci had a bit of a row with Allegri, and apparently has been fined by the club, and possibly might even be dropped for the Porto game. So, not
naughty.
Yeah, but again, it's kind of like the Dybala thing, where he's had a moan at Allegri for being subbed off in games where they're so instilled and bred in them that they have to win everything, that they never want to come off the pitch, and anything that goes wrong, they have to blame someone and dig out someone who's made a mistake. And Bonucci obviously thought it was Allegri's fault. So some arguments there. So lots of the papers obviously getting very excited, saying, "Oh, things are all wrong there, and Bonucci wants to leave." But I wouldn't read too much into that.
No, agreed. Interesting line that's come out of the press today in Corriere dello Sport, suggesting there's a 60% chance of Max Allegri staying at the J Stadium this summer, but says that Leonardo Jardim and Paulo Sousa are the likely replacements if he was to go. So interesting. Jardim's a very interesting shout, because in fact, isn't Paulo Sousa's Portuguese as well, isn't he? So there must be a Portuguese thing going on there. But yeah, he'll be a very sought after manager.
Sousa's done a very good job in SerieA at all the clubs he's been at, in Premier League, or well, not Premier League, but Swansea fans will certainly remember him fondly, because he was one of the first managers who really started that sort of revolution in the way they play, and sort of the attractive passing football and stuff when they were coming up to the Premier League. He was one of the kind of instigators of it, so he's highly thought of. But Allegri definitely does want to manage in the Premier League. He said that many times. Whether it will be this summer that he goes to the Premier League, nobody knows. But Juventus managers don't generally last very long at the club, and they haven't done since all the way back to, say, like Marcello Lippi, something like that. I think the average is about 3 seasons. So on previous records, he would be off, but he's still got another year on his contract.
Yes, indeed. And anyone who hasn't seen the quotes from, or the rumours of the quotes from Allegri and Bonucci, Gaz, get the bleep button ready. And the last few minutes of the game, the cameras picked up Allegri shouting, "Shut up, off," and Bonucci, who replied, "Go to hell." So yes, hopefully Gaz managed to bleep those naughty words, but that was the quote. So
that's a classic Italian Christmas, though. What are you talking about?
It is, yeah. And I'm sure there was a lot of hand waving and scarf throwing and all the cliches. Maybe somebody threw a moped, that kind of thing. But yeah, good times. Sorry, I don't mean that, of course. I'm not mocking your league at all, John. You know I love Italian football. And we'll touch on somebody's birthday in a minute because we have to talk about him. But before we do, let's talk Pescara. It's all happening at Pescara, isn't it? They've got a new manager and they got a rather good result. Do tell.
The Zeman returns. Zdeněk Zeman, who some people will know, was the manager at the time when they got promoted to SerieA. That was when they had the likes of Ciro Immobile, Verratti. Who else was in the team then? I'm missing someone. Insigne as well.
Of course,
before he went to Naples. Although he may have actually been on loan there, I can't quite remember. But anyway, he's come back to the club. He's basically said, even before the game had kicked off, he'd said, "We're not going to get out of this. We're bottom of the league, but we're going to entertain people on our way down." And he certainly proved it because they won 5-0 against Genoa. They were at home, and it's fair to say Genoa haven't been in the greatest form. They might be a little bit kind of in the position of we've got nothing to play for, so I'm not sure we can be bothered kind of attitude is kind of been thrown at them. But he's come in, he's changed the system to his 4-3-3 that he always plays. He moved Kapari, who's a very promising player, out to the wing. He said he should play from wide instead of through the middle. He did that and he scored 2 goals. They got a little bit of fortune with the first goal, where I think it was it Cherry? Cherry took it to the byline and basically tried to feed it back across, and it deflected off of Orban for an own goal. But other than that, all the goals were brilliant. They're all really well worked, nice interplay, very fast movement, and they were just too good. And Zeman's a very exciting manager. If anyone's seen him before, this is the kind of game where they could be 5-0 up at half-time and lose 6-5, or they could go on to score another 5 in the second half. He's that kind of guy. Very old school. I think he's got to be in his 70s now. I don't think they're allowed to smoke in the stadiums anymore, otherwise you would see him puffing away the whole time as well. Everyone loves him. He's very exciting, and he's been given a season and a half contract, so it's basically as a view to they know they're going to be in Serie B, but it's about what they do when they're in Serie B, because they've got some very good young players, and how they're going to try and get themselves back into Serie A, and hopefully Zeman can guide them and develop the young talent that they've got there a little bit, and sort of bring them bounce back in 2 years' time. And then I don't think he'll be the manager if they come straight back into Serie A. They'll bring someone else in. But yeah, he's a very exciting kind of character, and just really, really good result. And it's just nice for Pescara because although it's their second win, it's their first real win, because the win, the 3 points that they've got on board at the moment was awarded from the Sassuolo game for the ineligible player, which they actually lost. That's the only 3 points they would have had otherwise.
I think it's one of those, isn't it? Like, if they go and lose next weekend, I'll have to look up who they're playing actually. But if they go and lose next weekend, it all becomes they're away at Chievo, so it's winnable game maybe, but it kind of makes it pointless if they just lose the next couple, and it's one result doesn't really change the season. But if they can go on even not winning, even a sort of an unbeaten streak for 2 or 3 games, the trouble is with Zeman's sides, as we know, is that they'll always score 3 or 4, but they'll often concede 8 or 9. So it's kind of one of those. But it's a clean sheet. I mean, you can't knock it. And interestingly, he switched Caprari from centre forward to wide, and he came up trumps, didn't he? So. Yeah, fair play to him, and very, very good result. Genoa will be not very happy.
It also cost Mr. Ivan Juric his job at Genoa as well. Yeah. Yes,
indeed. I'm not surprised. Really.
No, it was coming anyway, but getting beat 5-0 by a team bottom of the table that hasn't won all season is just too much. And as much as the players perhaps didn't perform to their best level, no one wants to get beaten by that sort of scoreline. So Andrea Mandolini is coming in for the rest of the season. So we shall see how he gets on. But like I said, I think the bottom 3 are basically sewn up now. It's just how they perform and see out the rest of the season.
It sounds sort of promising, at least for now, under Zeman, and of course they now have double figures on points. They no longer have just 9 points. Well done, Pescara. Right, one team that certainly doesn't have any trouble with scoring goals or indeed getting points are Francesco Totti's Roma. They just roll on. Not a good day for Mr. Joe Hart. He conceded 4, as did Torino, of course, and Roma winning by 4-1. They had a smashing victory in the Europa League, didn't they? Which we'll talk about in the Satchel this week when we record on Thursday. But they're looking pretty ominous and signs that maybe this is the season that Roma finally don't bottle it.
Yeah, Edin Dzeko has been outstanding this season. He's tied for the Capocannoniere with Gonzalo Higuain, which is a ridiculous thing to say when you consider the team that Higuain's playing in. But they're just fantastic, and Spalletti is kind of taken this the bottlers mentality, as you put it, and a lot of people have said before, taking that out. Mo Salah's back in the team now as well, obviously back from African Nations Cup duty. Scored a great goal in this. Poor Joe Hart, I think there was probably, of all the shots, there was one he could have saved, which probably was Salah's. Every single shot went down to his left-hand side. Which is, I think we've spoken about it and lots of other people have said, is his one weakness. He's sort of down to his left. He seems to be slower going that way than to his right. But yeah, Nainggolan winning the ball in the opponent's half, passes it in to Dzeko, who holds off 3 players, shoots from outside the box into the bottom corner. Great finish. Another one where he's challenging in the box for the ball in the air. The knockdown comes to Salah, who volleys it. I think Hart could have done better with that one. Paredes scored the pick of the bunch though, absolute rocket. You know how Cuadrado's goal, he just connected beautifully and it just sailed and does that nice forward upwards trajectory. Well, Paredes hit his even harder, it went even faster but skimmed perfectly along the floor, just didn't change its height. It's just one of the best hits you'll see. I think if Hart had got into it, he probably would have gone into the back of the net with the ball. And Nainggolan getting a goal in injury time with a little assist from Francesco Totti, the man himself, came on for his little 15-minute run out, as he likes to do. Torino did get a goal back late on, a corner, and Chesney not very happy with his defence and the way they did it. But Roma just keep rolling on and really good now. And there's this, because everyone, Juventus have not won the title yet, but it's basically sewn up. There's now this very exciting who's going to finish second, Roma-Napoli kind of thing. And with the form that Inter have been in, they're putting just enough pressure to sort of worry the person who's sitting in third at the moment and whether they're going to drop out of those Champions League spots. So there's a really cool sort of race there at the top now. And also Dzeko as well, sort of the Belotti Dzeko thing, Higuain, and all sort of competing for the Capocannoniere as well. Very, very exciting. But yeah, if you haven't seen the Paredes goal, definitely go check that out because that was superb.
Yes, yeah, and glad to see Edin Dzeko has proven a lot of people wrong. I've always thought he was a very decent centre forward, just maybe got a bit ridiculed for some of the misses, but even the best centre forwards in the world have missed a few sitters. So yeah, I'm quite glad that it's coming good for him, and Roma do look the part. So yeah, we shall see how the season progresses. Still think Juve are probably going to win it, but nevertheless, they may be one of the favourites for the Europa League. So we will keep tabs on them. Right, other results in the league, and of course we should touch maybe briefly on Juventus, who have a rather big Champions League game this week. We might bring Drew in for that. Any other highlights from these particular results this weekend? I noticed there's a couple of decent results. Win for Milan, a win away for Sass, and a win away for Napoli as well. Yeah,
Milan good win at home against Fiorentina, team that have been in decent form, especially with the injuries that Milan have had, in particular at the back. Good goal from Kuchka and De La Feu, who has basically already come out and said he wants to stay at Milan, even though there is no clause in his loan deal for a buy option or anything at the end of it. So I'm sure that will please Everton and their fans. Napoli got a very good win, unsurprisingly, 3-1 win at home. Away to Chievo. Insigne in the score sheet again. Sassuolo really good. The De Frel goal, the first one he scored, wonderful build up in that, really really nice. And another goal for Fofana as well. For Udinese, who's been on the score sheet a couple of times. And unbelievable, Gabriel Barbosa, finally worthy of the name Gabigol, finally gets a goal at last for Inter.
Yay!
It was a tap-in, and he got booked for his celebration, but he's finally off the score sheet, so that's good, and hopefully we'll see more of him and slightly less of Palacio. But good for Inter, because they've been out without Icardi for 2 games for his suspension, and they won both of those, so it's showing they can do it without him. The only other thing to mention is less about the score. Samp won, Cagliari won, but Quagliarella scoring the goal broke down in tears afterwards, and there's a slightly sad but also wonderful story. The reason he broke down in tears is because a man, or well, it says person, but I assume it is a man, has been jailed finally after years, who has been stalking him and threatening his family for a long time. And no one knew about it. It wasn't in any of the papers. I don't think even members of certain like teammates or some of the clubs that he's played for knew. And this goes all the way back to when he was at Napoli. Many years ago, and basically the reason why he left Napoli in the first place, he was really happy there and wanted to stay, but he just couldn't because of the things that were going on and the threats he was receiving, and basically he couldn't leave his house and things like that, and it wasn't safe for his family because of this stalker, and the man's now finally been jailed, and it all came out, and he could now talk about it, and you could see it on the pitch. So a bittersweet story, but nice for him that he's over that, and just interesting sometimes, because you always kind of judge a footballer on their performances, but you never know exactly what's going on in their private life. So a nice end to things for him in that sense, anyway.
Yeah, great point that, because as you say, people do forget that these footballers are paid vast amounts of money, but they have private lives, and stuff does go on that people are not always aware of. So before you hold up that placard, or you scream at your manager online or players online or anything to do with your club, maybe just think twice, and definitely don't set people's cars on fire. That's not nice.
Yeah, that's definitely a no-no.
Yeah, that's not something we endorse on this podcast. Yes. Anyway, so that's the other results from the weekend's action. Good to see Gabby go on the score sheet. Let's have a quick look at the table, and you can find us a game to watch. Juve are, of course, top, 63 points from their 25 played. Roma second, 56 points, so quite a way back from their 25. Napoli third, 2 points back off them. Inter now fourth, so breathing down the necks of Napoli a little bit. Atalanta, amazing season. Level on points with Inter in 5th, Lazio 6th, Milan 7th, Fiorentina 8th, Torino 9th, Samp 10th. And then down the bottom of the table, Chievo, Sas, Udinese, Cagliari, Reading 11th down to 14th, with Bologna, wretched run of form for them, 4 straight defeats, 15th, 27 points. Genoa, having sacked their coach, 3 straight defeats, 25 from their 25 played. Empoli 22, and then it still seems like the 3 that are down there are going to go, even with Pescara's win. Hey, double points. Bottom 12 points. Second bottom Crotone 13 points. Third bottom Palermo 14 points. Nice bit of symmetry there. Your game of the week, John, before we have a quick look at the Champions League game?
Very easy. Inter host Roma Sunday night, 7:45 kickoff.
Oh, beautiful. Drew, do you fancy Porto's chances against Juve in this upcoming Champions League game? I think this might be a sleeper tie. Might be quite entertaining, this. Do you give them any chance?
I don't know. I personally, I don't know if Portuguese football at a club level. I mean, they played very well in the Euro to get there, whether they deserve to win or not. But I don't know if at club level, if the sides are good enough to deal with, especially a club like Juve can be. And Juve are very, I'd say, the multifunctional, for lack of a better term. You know, they can hit you on the break, they can possess if they need to. They're silky on the ball, but they can also be physically imposing when they need to be. And I don't know if Porto have enough to deal with a side who could hit you in different ways through different avenues, and do have a lot of quality up front, especially in, you mentioned Dybala before as a prime example. But I think Porto will give a good account of themselves, but I don't think they're going to get past Juve. And honestly, I mean, on form, you'd have to put Juve in with a chance of making a run into the semifinals, if they stay on form throughout the rest of the season. So.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting one, that, and of course in the Europa League, sorry, John, you've got Roma 4-0 win over Villarreal. I think they're probably almost guaranteed to go through the second leg, and Fiorentina Gladbach, your boys against your Italian guys. That's a bit closer, isn't it, on the Europa side? 1-0, to Fiorentina from the first leg. Do you back Gladbach away, or do you think Fiorentina will close that one off?
It's going to be difficult. Gladbach were very good in the tie, to be honest. Again, didn't take their chances, hit the post twice, I think, if I remember correctly, in the game. And Fiorentina weren't really in it, to be honest. I was surprised how dominant Gladbach were. It was only from a very, very good Bernardeschi free kick that got them the goal. So if they can play like that again, then yeah, they've got every chance. Because I know they've got the away goal, but if they put in that same performance, just need to improve on the finishing, then they've got a chance of going through.
Yeah, very true, very true. It's going to be an interesting tie. That probably one to look out for indeed. Okay, so that and obviously that Inter Roma game is massive on Sunday. So I'm sure you'll be across that one for us come next week's show. Right, that will do us for Italy this week then. As usual, you can tweet your bits and bobs to John if you want to ask him any questions, but we will now move on to France and find out what happened in this week's Liga.
Right, this week's Liga, we will start with the most entertaining team in Europe, top of the table. So, Bastia hosted Monaco. So I expect that Monaco just scored, 5 or 6 in this game then, Kris?
They didn't, no. It's a bit of a surprise result, this. Bastia is one of those grounds that big clubs, well, any club really, doesn't like going to because it's that sort of tight, hostile atmosphere. We all know what went on with the bad stuff with Mario and whatnot recently. But it ended in a 1-1 draw, and it was probably a fair result, to be perfectly honest. Bastia were in front through Diao. It was one of those, one of the few goals this season, actually, that's been determined by goal line technology in France. The ball was clearly over the line, Subasic clawing it out, but it had already crossed the line, so Bastia were 1-up, and they were pretty good value for it, in truth. They were a fairly good side first half and the majority of the second, but Monaco, as they always do, offer an excellent threat, and straight into the second half they hit back that man Bernardo Silva with a lovely stooping header, actually, as a cross came in into the far corner, got the equaliser, and points were shared. Monaco maybe had one eye on the tie that's currently being played, in fact, in Manchester in the Champions League this week, and it sort of showed. They looked a little bit rusty. That said, I think we'll come on to PSG in a minute. I think at the time they would have looked at this and thought, we've really dropped points there. And given the fact they played a fairly full-strength side, Jean Moutinho came into midfield, but other than that, it was a fairly full-strength side. And of course, they were missing the fullback. They were missing Djibril Sidibe, of course, who was injured. Sorry, on the bench, who's carrying a bit of an injury. So they brought in Touré at right back. But other than that, it was their standard 4-4-2. And they just couldn't break down this very stubborn Bastia, who have a few players that are worth keeping an eye on in their side at the moment. Diao up front, Prince Oniange's done very well since returning, and Florian Morange is pretty sturdy defender. So good result for Bastia. In the end, not a bad result for Monaco, given what happened later on in the weekend.
Yeah, it would have been disappointed at the time, but really. Well, I'd say really, really good result for Bastia, really, considering the amount of goals that Monaco have been knocking past people all season. You mentioned PSG, but before we get there, we'll go through the other team still in the title race, just about, have dipped a little bit lately, and to see if they could take advantage. Nice travelled to your boys Lorient, and wouldn't you know, they managed to get a win.
Yeah, that's a surprise, eh? Yes, it's a bit of a gimme, isn't it, at the moment, for a Lorient defeat when you play them. But yeah, they got the win. They weren't fantastic, it has to be said. There's a lot of sort of talk of this game, like would they have the firepower to sort of outscore Lorient, because Lorient has basically given up on defending and just decided they're going to try and attack, and that doesn't really work either. They were rocked with the news that Alisson, player, their leading marksman this season, has been ruled out for the rest of the season with that injury that he picked up, so he's missing. So it was down to Mario Balotelli to lead the line. That didn't end quite so well. More on that in a second. But the winner came from Milan Cyprien on the 15th minute. I know I'm a little bit biased naturally, but I really think that Nice got away with it a little bit in this one because Lorient actually created a lot of chances, but as usual, didn't put them away and came away with nothing. So not ideal in truth, and it's really looking very, very dangerous for Lorient now. And I, again, as I've said a few times, I fear we might be seeing, or I might be supporting a Ligue 2 side next year, but it is the Domino's sponsored Ligue 2 league, so I mean that'll be fun, won't it? But poor result for Lorient, but big victory this for Nice. They're not going away, which is good news because I think the romantic in us all wants Nice to continue this run. So we'll see what happens. But as for Mario, John, you'll be well versed in Mr. Balotelli. A couple of stats for you: 19 games, 11 goals, 8 yellow cards, 3 red cards. It's vintage Mario, isn't it? But he was sent off in this game for, quote, foul and abusive and intimidating language to a match official. Where have we seen and heard that before? And it was so silly because it sort of, I couldn't really see what caused the ruckus, but he was gobbing off and mouthing off, and it was just really, really silly. But it is classic Mario, and I have a feeling that he may not be a Nice player next year. I just get the feeling they're not relying on him, if you know what I mean. They're not playing him even when they kind of have to. So I don't really know where this romance is going to end, but I fear it won't end in Nice for Mario. So I think he'll be on his bike. But a good result for Nice nevertheless, and away from home, it's a good 3 points for them to pick up.
Yeah, I heard Mario swearing in English, so maybe thought you get away with that. It's quite funny actually when you see players who know English and play in other leagues. I always, whenever I watch Torino and they concede a goal, if you're watching on Italian coverage, you can always hear Joe Hart screaming horrendous language in English at his defenders, who look at him slightly perplexed and then realise what he's saying to them, and oh dear. And I'm not sure the Italian coverage always know quite what he's saying, but it's a little bit naughty, especially sometimes when it's 11 a.m. on a Sunday. But not good news for Mario. The other worry for Nice, obviously, is with another suspension for Mario. It should be said one of his red cards was rescinded, so he's technically only got 2. Really, he's not that naughty. But with Alassane Player out and Mario suspended now, the scoring of getting the goals and stuff is going to be a little bit of a struggle for Nice, isn't it?
Yes, I think I suppose that's going to be the worry, isn't it, for Nice? But then if they push Cyprian into this sort of more forward line position, bring Cosiello back into midfield, they're still hard to beat, and I still think they'll have enough to sort of see out the season. And like we've said on this pod a number of occasions before now, what is a successful season for Nice? I mean, they've had all this sort of money that's incoming, and they're part of a project of rebuild and whatnot, but if you'd have said to them pre-season that they would finish third, I'm pretty sure people would have been pretty happy with that situation.
Of course.
And they've got Donis, the young Greek centre forward, who's got 1 in 11 this season. I think he'll probably get a bit of game time. Bossetti's another forward they could use. So, I think Lucien Favre will be pretty happy with how things are going. And if they stay tight at the back, they only really need to score 1 goal. So this game proved that.
Yeah. Now, before we go to the other title challenges, I'll just run down some of the other results. Marseille got a 2-0 win at home against Rennes. Boys Clinton Nenji and Tauvin back at the club on the score sheet. Very, very good goal from Tauvin. Really enjoyed that. Angers got a 1-0 win over Nancy, goal there from Bamba. Lille, Ross's Lille, got a 1-0 win away against Caen. El Ghazi with a goal there. Who's that?
Mariax, man.
Yeah. Metz with a 1-1 draw against Nantes. Diabate and Orongia with the goals there. Bordeaux, very good. Another 3-0 win for them over Guingamp. Camano, Palois? I've got no idea.
Palois, yes.
Palois. And La Bordeaux with the goals. Martins Pereira sent off for Guingamp. See, I can get all these names right. I did just want to quickly dip into very, very quickly, Montpellier Saint-Etienne. Really good win for Montpellier, 2-1 win over Saint-Etienne. Bit of a surprise result. Another good goal from Monet Paquet, though, for Saint-Etienne. But new manager in at Montpellier, turned things around a little bit. Good, decent run of results they've got lately.
Yeah, sort of coach that people went, really? Kind of the former PSG sort of youth direct coach.
Wasn't he a friend of Laurent Blanc, and that's how he got his job originally? Yeah.
Jean-Louis Gasset, who's 63, so he's not a young coach. And if you look at his picture, he looks every bit 63, by the way. Sorry, but he hasn't aged well. But yeah, I mean, he's doing a good job. I mean, Montpellier, really, they just needed to consolidate a bit, take stock, and just get back to not conceding as many goals as they were, not being so unorganised. They are missing Casimir Ninga, who's a player I still think has got a really big future in the game with his cruciate. So that kind of killed their form. But Steve Mooney is a centre forward that is starting to turn heads of some of Europe's sort of bigger clubs, particularly Europa League clubs and teams of that ilk. He's not quite ready for top level, I don't think, yet, but he's starting to garner a little bit of interest from bigger clubs, and he's having quite a good season. And I think if he continues to score goals, they'll be all right. And they've won, there's two wins on the bounce for them now, steadying the ship. It's 3 wins in 4, if you want to look at it that way. So, yeah, I mean, they want to stay in the top half of Liga if they can. And it's 10 goals now in 23 for Steve Mooney. So, I think he might be one that might attract some attention in the summer, particularly from some sort of mid-table Premier League clubs, I think, are having a sniff. So, yeah, decent bit of turnaround under the new coach from Montpellier for sure.
Yeah, I heard Julien Rolleron was talking about Steve Mounier probably being in the Premier League next season. 2 more games to go through before we get to PSG. Lyon nearly threw it away and then started playing properly at home against Dijon. But Tolisso put them in front, and then Tavares and Dioni gave Dijon the lead. And then Lyon decided to start playing properly. Tolisso with his second, Lacazette from the spot. And do you remember that guy, Nabil Fekir? Yeah, that
still
guy.
there.
Yeah, he's still there.
Slowly coming back, yeah.
Lovely little goal, though, for him, and his left foot just fooled everyone, just dipping his shoulder and opened up the space for him. Very good. And a game that was played today, Caen against Nancy, a 1-0 win for Caen. Decent result for them, but we should get now to PSG. Obviously, Monaco drew, Nice won, so it was a good chance for PSG to close the gap, and they blew it. After they had put in an amazing performance against Barca, they couldn't score a goal. Unbelievable.
What did I say last week, John? Do you want to remind our listeners?
I'm not going to big up your ego anymore.
No, well, in fairness, I did say it will be a decent watch, and it wasn't a brilliant watch. I mean, not just because there wasn't many goals, but no, Toulouse were really organised. To be perfectly honest, if you look at the chances over 90 minutes, one run in particular from my old mate Andy Delors could have yielded a lot more results. And but for Alban Lafont, did have a very good game. It has to be said for Toulouse in the Toulouse goal. But they were organised. They were disciplined. Some really good performers on the night. A certain Arsenal scout, Gilles Grimondi, was in the crowd, watching some of these young whippersnappers at Toulouse. They've got a couple of players that are turning heads, particularly in their defence. They've got a centre-back pairing. I don't know if you guys have heard a little bit about Christopher Julien, who's 23 years of age, a hulking great centre-half. And speaking of that, only 20 years of age, Issa Diop, who's also turning a lot of heads. And he's very much in the mould of a sort of a Vieira-sized athlete. He's a big guy. A lot of talk that those two will be snapped up by clubs in the summer. I think Bayern Munich apparently are having a look at Diop. Not quite sure where he fits in. They've got plenty of centre house, but if Jerome Boateng moves on, maybe he'll have a look there. I'm not sure he's technically that good yet, whereas Christophe Julien probably is quite technically good, but not quite as good as a sort of ragged defender as Diop. But there's a really good partnership there, and when you consider those two are 20 and 23, and then you've got a young Alban Lafont with his number 40 shirt in goal, who's only 18, that's quite a young spine for any side. So fair play to Toulouse. They also came with three forwards. It was a bit of a 4-2-3-1, but they had Delors with Braithwaite and Corentin-Jean sort of flanking with Trejo in the midfield. So they didn't come just to sit back. They did sit back for long periods of the first half, but second half they tried to get that goal, which is what PSG did. And PSG, they just looked like that side, like Bayern. Drew was mentioned earlier on. It was a bit after the Lord Mayor's show for them. There wasn't the vigour. There wasn't the drive that he had against Barcelona. Cavani missed 2 chances, standard. But yeah, I mean, I had to get that in. But they just flat to deceive a little bit. Draxler was quiet. Lucas Moura was lazy at times, if I'm honest. And even I think Verratti coming on at half time sort of brightened things up a little bit, but they never really looked convincing. I thought they'd fluke this late on, but I was kind of delighted to hold my hands up and go, I got something right. So fair play to Toulouse, and as you say, with Monaco drawing, I think PSG will look at this as a real opportunity missed as far as the league title goes.
Yeah, they kind of strike me as they can get themselves up for the big games and put in the performances, and Emre certainly looks better in Europe than he does in Liga at the moment. But before
Still don't trust his hair, by the way. it's not. It looks like Lego hair. It's wrong.
Oh dear. Before we get a game from you to watch, I'll just run down the league table quickly. So Monaco still top on 59 points. PSG and Nice tied behind them on 56. Monaco still have that ridiculous goal difference though, 20 better off than PSG. Lyon in 4th on 43. Saint-Etienne, Marseille and Bordeaux all on 39. Then Toulouse, Guingamp and Rennes, that is your 8th to 9th. That is 34 to 33 points, so very tight in these sort of mid-table sections. Down into the bottom half of the table, Montpellier, Angers, Nantes and Lille make up 10th to 14th. And then you've got Metz, Dijon, Nancy just outside of the relegation zone. Caen in first team in the relegation zone now on 25 points. Bastia just below them on 23. And Lorient starting to look a little bit more cut adrift now. Not looking great on 22 points. So Kris, what is your game to watch next week?
Yes, by the way, Danny's Khan looking like they're going to join Chris's Lorient in Ligue 2. Good times for us too. Yeah, I kind of wrestled with this one a little bit because, I mean, Marseille PSG is the obvious. I mean, that is obviously the game of the weekend. It's Le Classique. Should be a real atmosphere in the Velodrome Sunday night, 8:00. But I also wanted to give a little shout out to Rennes Lorient because that's also a derby of sorts. It's the Breton derby. Rennes have been on an awful run of form, and Lorient desperately need to win a game, any game, just any game, please. So yeah, I'll probably be watching both. But yeah, Le Classique is clearly the big game of the weekend on Sunday.
Cool. Well, that is all from Liga this week. I'll hand it back over to you, Kris.
Lovely job. Okay, super. So that's our roundup of the big four leagues as usual for the podcast. We're going to move on now to focus on a league from around the world. This week we're off to Australia for the best of the rest. Right then, so best of the rest in Australia this week is the Hyundai A-League. I think we're pretty sure it's still the Hyundai A-League. We had to check that pre-game. Yes, indeed it is. Hyundai A-League. There you go. So I watched a game this weekend from Australia. I know, who'd have thought? But yeah, I had a lovely old time watching Perth Glory and Brisbane Roar. Kind of early morning Sunday, late night Saturday. What time it was in the UK? I think it was early Saturday morning in the UK actually. But yeah, it's a 2-2 draw. McLaren put Brisbane Roar in front. There was an equaliser from Perth Glory from Marinkovic. More on that in a second. Ingham put Brisbane Roar in front. Again, Taggart equalised straight after the second half for Perth. The reason I picked this game out, Brisbane Roar currently sit 4th, Perth currently sit 5th. One of the goals in this game was really controversial. The goal from Marinkovic was if you looked at the goal in isolation, you'd say there's no controversy here at all because he just absolutely hammers it from 25 yards and into the net from distance, and it's a special strike, has to be said. But the build-up, there was a little bit of controversy about this, resulted in a booking for the goalkeeper Theo in goal for the Brisbane Roar because the ball clearly in the build-up goes out behind. The guy gets to the byline, goes to cross it in, and the ball goes out. Should have been a goal kick, wasn't awarded, and then back came the Perth Glory into Marinkovic, who smashed it home. So a little bit of controversy like that in the Aussie League. So yeah, not good as far as that goes. But nevertheless, points were shared. Elsewhere in the A-League, of course, everyone wants to know who's doing what. Well, Sydney, they are top of the table by an absolute mile. They're 47 points they've had from their 20 games. Melbourne Victory is second on 39 points. There's quite a gap there. Melbourne City are third, 30 points. Brisbane Roar fourth, 30 points. Perth Glory, 28 points in fifth. Western Sydney Wanderers and 24 points in sixth. And you've got the Newcastle Jets, Wellington Phoenix, Central Coast Mariners and poor old Adelaide United at bottom on 14 points. Those four seem to be a little bit cut adrift of when the league divides into two. So that's the Aussie A-League. A good win actually for Melbourne Victory this weekend, who, as you said, a second 3-0 winner away at Central Coast Mariners, and a big win for Melbourne City, 5-1 away at Wellington Phoenix. So good results there for Melbourne clubs. So there you go. If you want to know more about the Aussie A-League, don't tweet us because we don't follow it that closely. I mean, I do, but that's because I'm really... In fact, actually, even I don't follow it that closely. But if there's the odd game on, I'll watch it. Pete Kennelly is your man, a friend of the show, Pete Kennelly. So, yeah, if you want to know stuff about the Aussie League, he wrote a blog for us last year. So give that a read, because that's a good read. It's still very much in date, actually, for the information he's provided. He's at Kennelly Peter, 2 N's, 2 L's. So look him up on the Twitters, and I'm sure he'll tell you all about the A-League. Right, so that's the best of the rest done for another week. As you say, no Hipsters Choice this week. So it's straight over to the end of the show. It's listeners' questions. Is this week's onion bag. Righty-ho then. So, onion bag this week. Now, we put out the call for questions quite late, so we've only got a couple here. 4, actually, in total. So, we'll get to them all with plenty of time. So, first one comes from Emmanuel Davila. It's a Spanish question, so we'll do our best, Emmanuel. If Luis Enrique goes, do you think he'll get a big, in capital letters, job, or back to good old mid-table teams? Love that end. Drew, let's start with you. Luis Enrique, can you see him in Germany? Can you see him at another big club, or is it a little bit of time off?
Okay, so I don't really know. I think it depends on a few factors, but when you really look at it, there's only maybe a few teams, and you can probably count them on one hand, maybe two if you really stretch it, who play the type of football that Luis Enrique would want to play if he was to leave Barca. So I mean, and if you look at the Bundesliga as an example, you could probably really only say that he could maybe fit Dortmund, maybe Bayern, and maybe Leverkusen. It depends. But other than those three, and then you really have to factor in how successful are Spanish managers outside of Spain. So I think that if you take those two things into account, it's an interesting debate. But I don't. If he was to leave Barca, maybe he would be in for a job in the Spanish Federation, perhaps, or maybe he'll find another club in Spain. I don't know, but I don't really know if I could see him really going anywhere apart from La Liga and being successful to a certain degree. So I mean, that's just my opinion, obviously, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I couldn't imagine him in France, to be honest. Anything to add Italy-wise, John? Anything new?
He's very well liked still at Roma. There was actually a banner this weekend at the Roma game. I'm just furiously trying to find where the banner... What was it? A real man in a world of phonies. Adelante Luis. And that was the Roma Ultras to Luis Enrique for the stick he's been getting lately. So, yeah, there's still some love for him there, and there's certainly clubs in Italy that would take him. And obviously there's talk that Spalletti is a possibility for the Barca job, so maybe there's a straight swap there. I'm not sure how happy Barca fans would be with Spalletti, I don't know. So I'm sure there's plenty of teams in Italy that would certainly take him.
I could actually see Luis Enrique manage a less fashionable club. Do you know what I mean by that? Like in a larger league, but maybe not a hugely like a Portuguese league. I could see him like at a Sporting or a Benfica, or
I think he's a very good manager, and I think he's managing Barca at a very difficult time when they are in transition. They are going for a big change, and the style's having to change slightly. And with the three big sort of names they've got up front, it's a very difficult system to work. I don't think anyone really envies his job that much. No. There's some players coming to the end of their career, so I'm sure there'd be Premier League clubs as well who'd be very, very happy to take him. And I think he's a very accomplished manager, so I'm not sure he's going to struggle to get a job, to be honest.
And not to mention, a very good point brought up on a few media sources this week, he also took over a Barcelona club that were a mess when he took over, and he has kind of rebuilt a lot of the structure of the club. When Martino left, it was a bit of a wrecking ball, out of control, wasn't it? So fair play to him for that. But nevertheless, when you manage Barcelona, you are expected to win all the time, so no pressure there. Good question, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. I know you've got another one for me in a minute, so we'll come back to that one. This one goes to John. It is from Mike Filetti.
A Juventus fan.
Yes, indeed. He wants to know who finishes ahead, Napoli or Roma. Hopefully in second, of course, with the devil emoji like that. Who do you reckon?
It's really, really tough to separate these two. I'm gonna. Who would I like? I'd like Napoli to finish second, and I'm gonna say them because I'm banking on Inter beating Roma this weekend, and hopefully they're the team we can overtake and steal the Champions League spot. But honestly, it's so difficult to call because they're both on such really, really good form. I think the advantage will probably be with Napoli in the long run towards the end of the season, just because despite the getting the away goal against Madrid and the fact I think they can beat them in Naples, but I suspect Madrid will go through in the tie, so Roma will have more games because I think they're good enough to win the Europa League, so maybe that will slow them down a little bit in the league. So I'm going to say Napoli just.
Interesting. And I'm going Roma. So, yeah, that's a friendly bet on that one, maybe. But, interesting. Good chase as well in that league. We've also got this one for Drew, again from Emmanuel. He wants to know how far can Johannes Geiss. I always forget that it's a different pronunciation in German. Silly boy.
Oh, God, how dare you.
Johannes Geiss. Yes. Now, he's the lad at Schalke, isn't he? The holding midfielder. So, Is he a level above Schalke, is what Emmanuel wants to know?
I think potentially, yeah. I mean, when you watched him when he was at Mainz, you could really sit back and say, even I sung his praises consistently about how good I think he was there. I still think he's a very good player, but, on paper, he fits what Marcus Weinzierl was building at Augsburg. He relied very much on his two deeper midfielders to get play going, to initiate the counterattacks and to contribute on the defensive side of the ball. And Geiss does all of that, but Weinzierl has had a difficult time in his first season in Gelsenkirchen. So I don't know. I think his ability is good enough to see him go up another level. I mean, you could easily see him popping up at a Dortmund and being successful, or maybe even another club outside of the Bundesliga. But for him, it's going to be. I think it's got to be the right fit. I think he's very good at what he does, but I don't, at least in my estimation, I don't really think that he is incredibly flexible in regards to his abilities and how he deploys in certain tactical schematics. So if he can find the right club, if he does leave Schalke, then I think he'll be just fine. But it could be one of those types of younger players where he's such a specialist in certain areas that he might not be able to fit into a different system if the type of player he is doesn't work for that system.
He's I must admit, he's a player that when he first broke out, I thought, oh yes.
He is very, very, very good, but I think he does have to broaden his game a little bit. But there are a few better individuals, I think, at least that are on set pieces. He's got excellent vision from deeper areas. He can ping a long ball with the best of them, and he's very good at that. But I think he does have to progress in other areas as well.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think Julian Weigel's probably sort of leaped him a little bit in the old popularity stakes as far as form goes. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. Okay, our final question comes from Francisco Zadino. I love his name, it's brilliant. He wants to ask, it's kind of for me and John, but brilliantly I can segue Drew in, because he wants to ask, I love this, who would you rather have in a one-on-one with a keeper, Xhaka or Cavani? And the reason I'm going to bring Drew in is because, Drew, while John answers this question, I want you to think of a player who's comedy-esque in the Bundesliga, who's just as likely to balloon one over the bar as he is to put it away. And you can't say Aubameyang after last week.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
That's what you were thinking. Yeah, exactly. So, John, would you rather have Cavani or Xhaka? You've seen Cavani in SerieA, of course, so you can make the comparison. And we said Xhaka's been improved this season, but obviously he still has a habit of making the odd cock up in front of goal, particularly with a penalty. So who would you rather have?
On this season, I'd have Xhaka. He's so much calmer and more composed and doesn't rush things anymore. If you could give me Cavani of the Napoli days, I'd probably take Cavani all day, but Cavani at PSG, no, sorry, not for me. I still think he's a very good player, but he just I'd put the bet on Dzeko all day long though.
Yeah, I would have Dzeko as well. In fact, I'd have quite a lot of force over Cavani, but you know that. So, Drew, if you're not going to pick Aubameyang, who else would you have?
No, I'm still going to pick him. I don't care.
Okay.
The reason why is because it's much to the Cavani argument, and maybe Dzeko as well, as we brought up. But when you think about the hype that surrounds him, and much of it is absolutely warranted, and how good of a striker he has become. How much of a threat he is in goal-scoring areas, but you sit back and wonder some of the chances that you need to be putting away when you're a 15-year-old coming through the ranks, let alone someone who's 26, 27, and almost at the pinnacle of the striker department in Europe. It makes you wonder, and I think we talk about it all the time, the same thing with Cavani in that same regard. So I'd sit back and think if Aubameyang put away the chances that were so clear-cut, such high percentage chances. He has 17 goals now. He'd easily be sitting on 25 goals in the league, with 13 matches left. He'd easily crack the 30 goal plateau. And I think when you look at it, and even maybe Lewandowski is a little more susceptible to spurning some chances as well as he's gotten on. I think the pair of them, when you look at it, they both should be breaking 30 goals, considering how many well-crafted high percentage chances they get every week, considering the teams they play for. So.
Well, I just want to pause at this point and just simply say the words Kylian Mbappe.
I just saw it.
just I know this is going to be recorded in delay, but the big man has done it again. Happy days.
Well, there it is. Two goals away from home.
Yes,
that's all you need.
Happy days. Goals of Pep. Anyway, yes, a good answer to that. I mean, I do get what you're saying. I do totally get what you're saying. I mean, for all Aubameyang is great, and he is great. He doesn't have to miss a few. It's just, he's one of those, isn't he? When he's good, he's really, really good. When he's not, he's
borderline embarrassing. Honestly.
And that penalty in Benfica last week, wow. I mean, that was, when he stepped up to take it, I was like, he's had an awful game. Why would you rely on him when you had, at least three different players in that Dortmund side?
There's plenty of other people that could have taken that penalty.
He's a good dead ball man, isn't he?
There's a bunch of them that could have taken it. I'd even have Julian Weigl take it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. He wanted his confidence back, and then it completely backfired. So
just get Berkey on pens. I love goalkeepers taking pens. Takes me back to Jose Luis Chilavert. So
I was just about to say that.
I still haven't thought of who that midfielder was for Deportivo, the Argentine midfielder. I still haven't thought of who it was.
I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it either.
Well, there you go. Well, if you're listening to this and you can remember, because I'm getting old, so my memory fails me, but if you can think of who this Argentine player was, I'm sure he was Argentine. Now I've said that, he's probably Spanish or something, but if you can think of who the hell I'm trying to remember, please do tweet the podcast and remind me, because I'm getting old.
I'm going to try to look it up and think of it.
Yeah, when you say it, I'll know it. Yeah, I'm sure he's Argentine, but I may be wrong. I don't know. Anyway,
Lionel Scaloni.
No. You'd have to Google. You'd have to Google Deportivo. Did they beat Monaco 7-2? Was it 7-2?
I'm looking up right now. Who do they have in their 11? I'm looking up the 2000 Champions League match against Hamburg, and Diego Tristan was there. So we're trying to find the starting 11 they had. It was they had Pandiani.
Mm-hmm.
He was there. Fran Diego.
No.
Reynolds Colon, I just said. Valeron? No, Valeron was Spanish.
Maybe it was him. Was that Carlos Maybe it was him.
Let me see.
I told you to be bloody Spanish, didn't I? After all this.
Yeah, Juan Carlos
Valeron. That's who I'm thinking of. Oopsie daisy. Okay, just ignore everything I said about him being Argentine. What an idiot I am.
Don't call an Argentine a Spaniard. They'll murder you on the spot.
I mean, in my defense, his name does sound a little bit like it could be Argentine.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay, that's what I'm going to go with. And on that note, we're going to end the podcast before I make an even bigger tit of myself. But yes, he was a wonderful player to watch, by the way. So him and Tristan and Mackay were a threesome if ever there was one. Still, right. So our thanks to all of you that have tweeted us questions. Again, if there's something that is burning issue in your mind and you want to ask us, or you want to ask one of our hipsters questions directly, please do just tweet us or DM us or email us. Even if we haven't asked for questions, we'll always try and get them in to the next show that we record. So ping us your questions and we'll do our best to either butcher the answers or come up with some fairly interesting answers. Hopefully the latter. No promises. So we'll end the show there. Thank you as always for tuning in. You can follow us at the FH Podcast, and remember, please do visit our links, our linked up classic football shirts.co.uk. They're a great bunch of guys. Fantastic offers on all of their kits. They've actually got some extra offers on at the moment, which I can actually bring you up to speed with because I've just got their mail shot. So if you visit classicfootballshirts.co.uk, just at the moment, they have got an offer on which is on all Italian wear from the 2016-17 collection. They are, John, just for you, that is. So get over to classicfootballshirts.co.uk and you can have a look at their bits and bobs.
Just as Ronosci has gone and left the club. I was going to get his name as well.
What more could you ask? And also, our good pal Janzeb, who's now a Nantes fan, on their very home page, they've got a brand new in bag 2013-14 Nantes home shirt, $11.99 was 40 quid.
That's dirt cheap.
You're not going to get cheaper than that. It's an anniversary shirt as well, 70th anniversary shirt. So there you go. Check out our partners, classicfootballshirts.co.uk. We do have some discount codes. We can dig those out. Tweet us. We will let you know what they are. If you want to get a 10% discount, we can give you that as he frantically searches once again for the emails. So remember, you pick out the shirt you want, go to the checkout, and once you go through, there's a little one of these where you can input a code basically, and it gives you a 10% discount off of your purchase. CFSAW10 is the code that you need for that 10% discount. So there you go. So remember, whether you're a full hipster or a classic collector, CFS have something for you. Check them out. Right, that'll wrap up our show then for this week. As we always say on this podcast, keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. Check out our latest blog, which is from Jimmy, our good friend, NN_Guna, and he will be doing a podcast with us all about the MLS, which will be released as a special, so look out for that in the coming days as well. My thanks to John and to Drew. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It was kind of fun.
And we're all off to watch Monaco spank Man City. Until next week, thank you for tuning in. As always, tweet us your thoughts. Keep enjoying our pods, and we'll speak to you very soon.